A mummy is a dead body that has been preserved or preserved from natural destruction and decay through scientific technology. In other words, a mummy is a dead body of any animal or human that has been preserved in a special process. Origin of the word mummy. The word mummy is derived from the medieval Latin word mumia, which is derived from the Arabic word mumia, and the Persian language mum, in English wax, which means bitumen. Origin of first mummification. Mummy brings to mind the Egyptian desert pyramids and pharaohs, but the people who became mastered in mummification long before the Egyptians were the Chinchorro people of northern Chile and southern Peru. The Chinchorro civilization disappeared 1,000 years before the Egyptian civilization began. Human bodies, which are at least 10,000 years old, still remain intact in spite of experiencing hot and waterless environment. Chinchorro mummy. A radiocarbon dating test on the mummy of a child from the Chinchorro tribe found in the Camaronice Valley of South America shows that the mummy was made in 5500 BC, that is almost 2000 years before the Egyptians. The Egyptians mastered the technique of making mummies in 3000 BC. The Chinchorro lived in small groups along the coast. They did not know agriculture. Their food was only sea fish, sea lion meat. The oldest mummies in Chile were not found with pottery, cloth, gold ornaments, and money coins like Egyptian mummies. They were found with all common items such as fishing gear and daily necessary tools. The method of mummification of the Chinchorro was highly advanced. Chinchorro believed that death is not the end. There is still another life. From this belief, mummy making began. Where the Egyptians used an unknown chemical during mummification, the Chinchorro adopted an eco-friendly method. Before mummification, they would remove the skin of the dead. Then the hands and feet were cut off, rubbed with hot ashes, dried and tied with small sticks and grass to reconstruct the body. Then the skull was filled with grass, hair and ashes, and the body was covered with clay and vegetable fiber, just as animal bodies are stuffed today. In addition to the dead's own skin, the corpse was covered with seal and pelican skin. At the end, the mummy was decorated in red and black colors with ashes covering the face and body. They looked very alive with long hair on their heads. Then the stuffed body was placed in front of it like idolatry, and the supernatural activities of the deceased were completed. Mummies were not buried in the ground immediately after they were made. Some of the mummies have several different coatings of color on their faces. It is not clear why the Chinchorro civilization disappeared. Researchers believe that many of their religious practices were similar to those of the Incas. It is not difficult to understand from the signs of these well-preserved mummies that an advanced lifestyle prevailed among the Chinchorro and the developed civilization emerged. The method of the Egyptians. Early in the mummification process, Egyptians would wrap the corpse tightly in jute cloth soaked in the resinous sap, a type of plant called resin. As a result of this bandaging, the dead body was almost like a living person, but the bandage could not stop the process of decomposition. The bacteria would stay inside the bandage. Gradually, the corpse would have turned into a skeleton which was totally undesirable. After much experimentation, the Egyptians finally realized that the decay of the organs inside the body was the root cause of their depression. So they developed a wonderful, ingenious method of preserving corpses by removing the internal organs. Accumulating long-term experience, the ancient Egyptians came up with a specific rule for making mummies, which is known in the description of the ancient historian Herodotus. The master craftsman of mummification was usually a priest wearing the mask of Anubis. Anubis is the fox-faced Egyptian god of death. In the earlier video, I talked about the god Anubis. Anubis was closely associated with the mummification process, which is why priests wore the mask of Anubis during the mummification process and during burials. Mummification could only be done by kings, queens, and the wealthy. The most expensive method of mummification has been given here. 1. Extracting the brain through the nostrils with an iron hook. 2. All the internal organs are taken out by making a small incision near the left side of the abdomen. 3. Allowing the internal organs to dry and storing the liver, stomach, lungs in a special container. 4. Transplantation of the heart into the body. 5. Cleaning and treating the inside of the body with alcohol or wine and various spices. 6. Preserving the body with a natural salt called natron for up to 70 days. 7. After 40 days, the body was filled with linen cloth or sand to give it a human form. 8. After 70 days, it was wrapped like a bandage with linen cloth from head to foot. 9. The mummy was then placed in a type of coffin called a sarcophagus. A wonderful method of strange and ghostly mummification. Before mummification, the body was initially taken to the ibu or place of purification. Here, the body was first washed with aromatic tari, a liquor made from palm juice. The body was then thoroughly cleansed with Nile water. From here, the body was taken to the pre-nefar or mummification chamber. This is where the main work of mummifying the dead body begins. After being taken to par-nefar, the body was placed on a wooden table. This time, to save the dead body from decomposition, the work of removing its internal organs was going on. It started with the brain. That's why they first insert something sharp through the nose up to the skull. Then, with the help of a long iron hook, they would take out the whole brain through the nose. It is understood that it is not possible to extract the whole brain properly with a hook, so they then scooped out the remains of the brain with a long spoon. Interestingly, the Egyptians did not preserve the hard-earned brains. They actually did not understand what the brain is used for, but they were sure that this brain will not be useful in the future. This time, the people involved in the mummification process cut a small area on the left side of the deceased's body above the abdomen with the help of a blade made of hard stone called obsidian. From there, they would take out the liver, lungs, stomach, and intestines one by one. The ancient Egyptians believed that the heart was the center of all human emotions and feelings. So they did not do anything to this part of the body. The separated parts were washed well, coated with resin, wrapped in linen cloth, and stored in a special container. This vessel is called canopic jar. According to the ancient Egyptians, the organs preserved in these containers accompanied the deceased in the afterlife. Let us know the names of the canopic jars. 1. The human head-shaped jar called imseti, in which the liver was kept. 2. Lungs were kept in a jar called hapi, shaped like a baboon's head. 3. The stomach was kept in a jar called duamutef, which looked like a jackal's head. 4. The entrails were kept in a jar called kebhesnuef, shaped like a hawk's head. After the removal of the internal organs, the empty space created was washed again with alcohol for purification. Then, to make the dead body look like a living one, the empty space is filled with linen cloth, sand, incense, and other substances, so that the skin does not penetrate into the stomach when it dries. This time, the whole body was covered with a type of natural salt called natron. This natron absorbed body fluids without greatly discoloring or hardening the skin. The body was thus kept in natron for 35 to 40 days or maximum 70 days. During this time, the body would be completely dry. However, as the smell of dead bodies spread around, various corpse-eating animals also arrived. Guards were appointed to protect the bodies from them. After 40 days, the body was brought to the wabet or purification room. Bringing here, all the substances that had been filling the empty space of the dead body for so long were taken out. The area was then filled with natron, cloth soaked in resin, and other materials. The incisions were then sutured and a resin coating was applied over the entire body to absorb moisture. The work of wrapping the body with bandages then began. The entire process of bandaging was quite complicated and took about 1 to 2 weeks. It started with the head and neck, then one by one the hands, feet, and the whole body were wrapped with bandages. After the different parts of the body were bandaged separately, the whole body was wrapped again with bandages. Resin was used as a glue between them when adding new layers. It can be understood that the Egyptians knew the use of resin. They knew or noticed the antibacterial properties of the resin. During the entire process of bandaging, the people involved in mummification would chant various mantras and spread various ingredients related to mantras on the body of the deceased. Hands and feet were tied together. Between the hands, the mantras written on papyrus collected from the Book of Dead were stuck. After wrapping the whole body with bandages, hard cages were placed on the different parts of the body and a mask was placed on the head. The mask looked like either the face of the dead or an Egyptian god. According to them, it played an important role in their journey to the afterlife. It helps the soul of the deceased to find the right body. The mummified caged body was then placed in a coffin or sarcophagus. Various food items, precious jewelry, jewels, etc. were given to the deceased for use in the afterlife. Thus ended the whole process of turning a dead body into a mummy. Salute to you on behalf of those original, ghostly, innocent, speechless mummies for watching this video for a long time.